All right, it's Monday on Daily Delivery. Patrick Reusse with me. I'm Michael Rand. Got like a million topics today, Patrick. Just it's one of those weekends where a lot of different things happening, but I think we got to start with women's basketball. The Big Ten tournament was in town the last several days over at Target Center. Iowa wins in a rout in the championship game Sunday. Caitlin Clark, my goodness, a triple double with 17 assists in that game. But in the midst of it all, Lindsay Whalen and the Gophers parting ways is how it was termed in the news release. Well, I guess that's subject to interpretation, but I don't think you part ways after 5 years in an entirely mutual sense. Patrick, how did you take Thursday's news that Lindsay Whalen no longer the Gophers women's basketball coach?
I think that it was very Bush League by Mark Coyle to do it while and Big Ten basketball tournament was being held in town, and actually do it on Thursday when the other team, because I mean, it was on Thursday, right?
Yeah, it
And
was Thursday. Yeah.
did it with all the teams. Some of the teams hadn't even played yet. You can't wait. He should be firing her today if he's going to fire her. I think publicly. I mean, now, maybe when he told her on Thursday morning that he was firing her, that she wanted it announced right away. But here's the deal: she signs on to the release that it was a mutual agreement, which
Right.
is absolute nonsense. And then later at night, and then she doesn't show up for the press conference because it was being handled as though it was a mutual agreement. She was supposed to show up for the press conference,
Right.
and and then later in the day, she said she was so emotional about it that she couldn't really do it. They were on the way to the press conference, and then Lindsay got too emotional and couldn't do it. So obviously, she was told that she was being fired, and has not yet talked about it. I don't know. We all hoped for her. We all thought that maybe it was going to work, and I don't think the magic of her name ever made the transportation to really the players, to the athletes. She didn't. Destiny Pitts, she ended up running her off the team in 2020. Jasmine Powell,
Right.
last year. I don't know if now the Destiny Pitts, there's two angles on that, and
Sure.
how that came about, I don't know. But I I don't think that I don't think the bond with the players was that strong. They bunch of them all bailed out on her last year for no apparent reason after that season. I mean, the Sissoko kid who's transferred twice leaves, and I don't know. I don't think it just didn't work, and I think we all said, "Hey, this is a good idea. Let's give it a try," and it didn't work. So now they're going to have to go out and get a real coach. The easy hire would be the guy at South Dakota State,
Right.
Johnston, but I don't think, let's be blunt. I don't think they're going to hire a male. They have a male coach in the volleyball team. They got a male coach in the hockey team. I don't think you're going to have. I don't think your three most prominent coaches in the women's athletics are going to be a male. And I don't know. Maybe there are better choices. Probably, maybe too. I mean, Megan Duffy at Marquette was mentioned. There's a couple others that you might, but you're going to have to pay if you're going to
Yes.
if you get somebody away from Marquette. You're going to have to pay more than he's been willing to. The Coyle with problems. He's just so aloof from any program other than basically the only thing he cares about is PJ's football. To get all the money they're trying to invest is being invested in football. Name, image, and likeness for the men's basketball team is zero.
Yeah.
So how much can they possibly have going with women's basketball? So I don't think he's done taken much interest in any sport over there other than football. But one thing about him is he is decisive, and he always has a list of people that he knows
Yes.
where he go. I mean, he had Fleck hired before he fired Tracy Claeys. And to me, Tracy Claeys is a much more controversial fight. Not Lindsay. Lindsay
Not
because
from a
she's
name standpoint.
popular.
Yeah.
Lindsay because she's popular, but
Right.
track record wise, he certainly was a much more controversial firing than Lindsay. I really think that. I think it was here's my bottom line. I think it was a mercy firing. I don't think she was. She just did not look like she was enjoying this to me.
No, I
I
agree.
think she felt overmatched. She felt disappointed that this is, obviously this is all from watching, not from
Yes.
aware of this, but I think she expected that it would be easier. I think she thought the job would be easier, and it was really, really hard. And then recruits disappointed her by Minnesota kids by saying, the kid from Bunnell that they were really hot on, and they started recruiting her as a freshman, and she's a sophomore and already says she's going to Michigan. So
Yeah.
before it started, so. I think she just had a lot of disappointments, and it'll be a good thing for everybody involved. She'll have a better life. I think I hear rumors she's going to end up in the Lynx organization, and that's probably the place to go.
Yeah, and then another piece of this is when she took the job, it was easier, right? I mean, back in 2018,
right.
college coaching was easier. It was pre-pandemic. There was no NIL. There was no transfer portal. I mean, not the. And I don't want to make the NIL and transfer portal sound like they're bad things necessarily, because I think it's just the evolution. But man, her job got harder in the last 5 years, and I think that probably wore on her, especially the last few.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. I mean that. The Sissoko had already transferred one. She could not have done. She could not have. She could. I mean, not. We talked about that last week. That when you're bad,
Yes.
because of these rules, especially if you don't have any money, especially NIL, to go with the transfer portal. If you're bad, it's a lot easier to get worse than it is to get better. So, and that's and I like this freshman class to some degree.
Right.
You like on and some of this, but boy, those kids got a lot of work to do. They got physically, they have to, and do they want to do it? But physically, they have to get so much stronger that they can take the bumping and the women's basketball is more physical than it was. And better athletes. You get guarded out on the perimeter, they're not going to let you just take that 3-pointer because you're standing out there. And it's they have a lot of work to do, and now who's going to stay? We don't have any idea, but I don't think if a couple of kids transfer, it's not going to be because Lindsay isn't coaching anymore. I think she might have lost a couple of players too. So
yeah, they might probably some of them just probably tired of losing, and that was part of the reason Sarah Scalia left, and that was a surprise, and that one didn't help the program direction.
Oh, because she had that feisty, nasty attitude, Scalia, and somebody. The rumor was that she didn't think that the team that many players cared as much as she did. So she gets to go to Indiana, and she's done the number 2 team in the country until they got beat in the semifinals anyway. So she's playing for a number 1 seed. She's the 6th player on a number 1 team, gets to come off the bench and take all the 3-pointers she wants. She's happy, and you can't blame her.
No. And yeah, it was a good tournament too. Like I said, the women's tournament. You made a good point too. I was wondering about. I thought timing wise it was strange, and maybe we don't. Again, we're hearing only one side of this still at this point. I think we'll hear from Lindsay at some point here, relatively soon. I would hope, kind of her side of how this all went down and where she's at and what happened. But yeah, the fact that this happened in the midst of the Big Ten tournament, that was the biggest surprise. He wasn't surprised that there was talk and ultimately a decision of her losing that job. You might have thought she might get one more year based on the freshman class, but maybe they saw something there where the direction wasn't going to be good. Who knows? But yeah, it was to have the coaches talk about that the next day, and we even wrote a story about that, which was quite good. Them talking about, hey, too soon. You hate to see a coach like that. We like Lindsay, things like that. For them to have to address that in the middle of that tournament, I did not think that was a good look for the league.
Yeah, I think he's pretty obtuse sometimes about things. My favorite Coyle moment is still him and Harry Kaler standing on the sidelines at the Holiday Bowl, looking as though they had been told that their family dogs got run over by semi trucks or something. The two saddest looking saps I ever saw in my life, as the Gophers are pulling off this amazing upset against
Tracy Clays, yeah.
To fire Clays, and Coyle and Kaler know that they're going to fire him, and have to sit there and watch it. Looking, they couldn't even pretend like they were happy. They were such frauds on that deal. So
take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end, and you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
Let's transition a little bit to the men's program, and then we'll get to some Timberwolves Wild other stuff after that. But they finish their season 2-17. There'll be a one extra that they didn't play. They never made up that Michigan State game, right? So 2-17.
State now Michigan State would have beaten the Gophers, so I guess it didn't help Michigan State. But Michigan State, after Izzo whined about not getting to play the game, ends up one of the top four, so they don't have to play for two rounds. But anyway. That's yes. I thought he had 4 years. I'm not sure. I think he might have one more. I think
so too.
They're not going to fire both coaches, but if they manage to finish in last place and go 5-15 next year, Ben Johnson's going to be out of here too. They're not going to fire them both in the same year, but and they got to give Johnson another year here. But and they did get the commitment from the kid up in
Cherry,
who's I mean, I got a lot of people tell me he's a big time player. So, best thing they could do to him is call him up and ask him to graduate early.
Right, plenty of playing time here, Isaac. Plenty of playing time.
How old he is, but if he's any good at all, he would be by far their best guards.
Oh, their guards are terrible. They're terrible. No disrespect, they're terrible though.
I got a hope for Carrington as a player, as a someday, but their guards are awful, and that's they got to wait another year for him, and here's what we found out: Coyle is not going to. I think because the big kid from California bailed, which is no surprise, Evans. He's not going to wait to pull the trigger on you if he thinks you have these commitments coming. These players coming in the next year. He's gonna Lindsay. Lindsay has a decent freshman class coming in this year, including the kid from Europe, and that didn't save her job. She got fired anyway. So he's gonna Johnson goes in the next year on double secret probation for sure. And that was they could have done the world a favor by beating that lousy Wisconsin.
I saw you tweeted that. Yeah.
God, I can't stand to watch them. They're just pathetic. And they're still on the Big Ten's going to get like, as bad as it is, they're going to get like 10 teams in the tournament.
Well, there's 68 teams make the tournament. So, yeah.
This big gob of mediocrity that they have, that they're all the same. You got vastly overrated Purdue winning the league by 3 games, going 15-5. And the rest of them are just nothing. They're nothing. They're just a bunch of bums, and just unentertaining, terrible basketball. And but they're all the same, and so they're all going to end up going to the tournament, and you're going to hear about what a great league it was, and then when you get to the final 8, none of them are going to be left.
That's true. It's very true.
You'll have 9 in, 2 will make it to the Sweet 16, and 1 will make it to the final 8, and none of them will make it to the final 4. It's a lousy league. I don't care what anybody tells me. And the Gophers yesterday, Wisconsin wanted to lose. And Jameis battle.
Going pro?
What pro league is he think he's going to play? Does he got a deal with the Philippines or something? Australia?
Something like that, yeah.
He might not even get invited to a tryout. What is he?
No, I think if he's talking pro, he's talking overseas. He's not talking about anything here.
He must be Australia or something. Yeah, and that's fine if that's what he wants to do.
Go make a couple $100,000 playing basketball in a different country. That's a pretty good way to go.
Hasn't he already played 4 years? Because he was at George Washington and he's been here twice. Was he only at George Washington one? They keep saying he's a junior, but I think he's got that COVID year.
I think he played 2 years at George Washington.
Yeah, so he's already played. Maybe he's just sick of it. Sometimes.
Yeah,
don't want to go to college anymore. It's maybe you're sick of it, and this year, he faced a lot of extra pressure, and they wanted to take away from. They wanted to take him away, and they guarded him a lot harder this year than they did.
Yes.
Before, and he did have one miracle victory. He'll always
the Rutgers game, yeah.
Have that Rutgers game on his bio, and good luck to him if he's, I shouldn't have badmouthed him there, but obviously it's not he doesn't, see a NBA.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Not play a Big Ten. Maybe I'll go to Europe or Australia or someplace for a couple of years and then come back and be a good player. Some guys have actually done that and ended up getting drafted in the NBA, although those were younger guys, the ones that went to Europe and started playing basketball. But anyway, they were, they just they couldn't get her done again last night in the stretch. I don't know how much, and I think the reason they can is they don't have any guards.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. They don't make their free throws. A team that doesn't make their free throws will just drive you crazy.
It's hard to hold victories or they don't. Are they still last?
I don't know. They were 11 for 19 last night. They were last in the country for a while.
Yeah, you know what last is? 353rd. There's 353 teams alleging to play Division I basketball. I looked it up, by the way. St. Thomas won last night, and they're in the semifinals of a Summit League. They play Oral Roberts tonight, and they'll get beat. But they're now 200 and Ken Palm, and the Gophers are 222. So
wow,
and that is the only Division I program, top level, the power, the college basketball version of the Power 5, which probably a Power 7. The only team worse, Louisville, which is apparently the team that's going to steal Evans.
Yes.
So, because of a huge NIL. How about Louisville? 4-25.
Ooh, yeah.
Louisville. Unbelievable. I don't know. I mean, good luck, Ben, and they're going to have to add a couple of transfers and take a shot. But Ben now knows that if he has a year, I'm not saying if he has a year like this, because obviously he can't be this rotten again. But if they have a 12th place finish next year, he's fired. So,
I think so too. And yes, they are still last, 61.7% as a team from the free throw line this year, 61.7%.
And one other note on the Gophers, we'll always have baseball to defend us.
Oh, my gosh.
0-11.
0-11.
They get, after 2 horrible years, and they get to 0-11 by getting no hit by Vanderbilt.
Yes.
John Anderson's 2-year extension is expiring, and John will not be back as coach next year, I would guess. I mean, I don't think Coyle gives one hoot about baseball, but at a certain point, he can get a coach for less money than he's paying John, so that's what he'll do. If he had it to do himself, he'd probably drop baseball. But I don't think he has the guts to do that. But it's too bad for a great career like John Anderson had a band like this. But boy, you can't be as awful as they've been, and then start your third year 3-0-11. So
no, you can't. I mean, it hasn't been that long that they were.
No, 18. 18. They had a great team that got to a super regional, and
had a
they
chance.
were competitive, and then all of a sudden they're just terrible. Their pitching staff 2 years ago had an ERA in the eights, and this time it was in the high. And last year it was the high sixes. And they can't get anybody out. They can't hit. That's a bad combination.
It is a bad combo.
Michael, that's the way I've looked at it. But
yeah.
I guess that's all we need to say about Gopher baseball. 0-11.
0-11.
Wow.
Well, when you were talking about that swirl of mediocrity, it was making me think of the NBA Western Conference. We got to talk Wolves for a minute because we came on here last week. We were pretty hard on the Wolves.
We wrote them off.
I thought not even going to make the play-in, and then after that they win 3 straight road games against 3 decent teams, right? The Clippers, the Lakers, and then the Kings in the back-to-back.
Yeah, and the Kings on the back-to-back was the shocker to me, man.
Yes.
But LaBelle last Sunday predicted that they'd be 3-1 on their road trip, and I questioned his mental capacity because of that. And they went 3-1 on their road trip.
They did.
Unbelievable. It's boy, are they unpredictable. But
they are.
Kyle Anderson, when he plays and he's healthy, he gives them a little glue, a little defense.
Yes.
And then you got Nas. Nas won one of those games all by himself. And then, somebody pops up and plays. Edwards he hadn't been making shots, but he still competes like a son of a gun. And
he was good. He was good in that. He was good in that Kings game too.
And Connolly actually had 2 good games in a row too.
Yes.
So he won the one game, but the Saturday night game, right? He won that.
Yeah, he was really good in that game.
He hit the 3, and then he hit another bucket at the end to win that game. But they're just when you think they're done. I mean, they had a 5-game stretch with like 4 historically bad losses.
Yes,
and they go out and win, and the goal. And don't forget, the road trip started with a loss to a Golden State team that wasn't playing anybody.
Yes, I know.
And then they win 3 in a row. So
yeah,
I think that's why I like the Big Ten, the Big Ten, the NBA this year, because it's really unpredictable. It's not, San Antonio is going to lose, and it pretty much. I mean, Milwaukee just had a 16-game winning streak, but you don't look at them as invincible, right? You don't look at it.
There's fewer really bad teams this year. There's a lot of teams that could win on any given night that are trying, and I think maybe some of it's the play-in. I think the play-in's giving more teams a chance to hang around.
Yes, and I think there are more players. Maybe the G League has something to do with some of these. When the 3 guys take the night off, the guys that come in and play are better than they used to be, right?
Yeah.
The 8, 9, and 10 are better. 9, 10, and 11 are better than they used to be, and they're not completely unfamiliar with playing. I mean, we got Luka. He can't even dress.
Right.
Luka played about 4 games. He was pretty good.
Yes, I agree.
It's there's a little more depth of talent, I think, around the league, and I don't know what it is, but the NBA is kind of, because you watch some games, and then of course you have the miracle man, my guy Tibbs, who has now won 9 in a row.
Yes,
and they are 38 and what are they? They're 13 or 14 games over 500.
Yeah,
Tibbs is now the hero of New York.
Yes,
they just they pulled one out against Miami. Randall made this ungodly 3 with a second to go, and then they won again last night.
Yeah, quickly had a good game last night. Yeah,
Boston. Hey, by the way, Tibbs, Brunson didn't play last night, so Quickly got 38. Quickly played 55 minutes, including the last 44.
Oh my gosh,
So
what?
all the Tibbs load management people are not. Tibbs is, you're playing good. Keep playing.
Keep playing. You'll get you lots of timeouts. That's when you're going to rest.
Yes,
Lots of
yes,
timeouts.
yes. Anyway, it's pretty funny that they're because they were going to run him out of there about a
Yeah.
third of the way through the season, and now they're playing pretty good. He was so happy he got knocked down to the floor at the end of the Randall game the other day. I saw that.
Oh my gosh.
He was jumping around. So anyway, yeah, the NBA is fun this year. I really think it is.
One surprise for the Wolves too is that I thought he was just kind of a throw-in in the deal, but this Nikhil Alexander Walker has become a
Oh,
top.
really?
He's become a top 9
I haven't
rotation
seen
guy.
much of him.
What's that?
What can he do?
He's he's been kind of he's been getting a lot of the Jalen Noel minutes that since Noel's been hurt and Rivers has been out of the rotation too. He plays defense, he knocks down a shot and doesn't try to do too much, but he can handle the ball a little bit too. He's just kind of got a nice game. He's just kind of seems like a pretty smart player. Another one of those guys who, imagine kind of like Torian Prince, but smaller,
Yeah,
I guess. That's
I
kind
like
of what he
Dorian
does.
Prince, but he's hurt all the time. But speaking of that,
Yeah.
the Cat
Oh yeah, the Catman.
played the first 21 games of the season.
Yes.
There are 16 games left, and he hasn't played since.
No, so he's missed.
What is going on here?
I don't know. I talked to Hein about that
the other. Going on?
I talked to Hein about that last week. We don't know still. It's the team has said nothing.
The
team has said nothing.
I don't think if indeed he was if indeed this was really an injury that turned out to be way worse than they thought,
then tell us.
Say that.
Then tell us.
Just say that.
Yes, that's what I would think.
Or have the last 2 or 3 weeks been him just saying, I'm not ready yet? They don't want to. You just get the impression he's saying, and it's a bad thing to say about anybody. But, there's what good does it do now? You might as well there's 16 games left. And you got Nas playing like he does, and you got Gobert. Now part of Edwards' problem when he has a bad night is that Gobert's now by the basket, so he can't drive like he wants to. But that's the negative. The real negative about Gobert is it takes away a lot of that room for Edwards to get to the basket. But I don't know. It's just you might as well play it out now, except. Doesn't he have to play some if you want to trade him this summer?
Maybe.
He have to show people he can play?
I don't know. Unless they're worried about him getting injured again.
They managed to trade Kawhi for a lot when he didn't play at all the season before, basically. And Durant, misses huge amounts of time, and they trade for him too. So I don't know. But it's really it's an irritating situation because they give you so little information on what the hell's going on. So
yes, and I brought that up to Hein, and I think he's been through it all too. And we talked about it late last week. Like it's just the information just hasn't been there. So it invites speculation. It just does. When you don't know, you fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and So what do you and when he comes back, even if it's next year, you got the same problem you had during the first 21 games this year. How do those two guys play together?
Right.
So it's I don't know. They're lucky that a couple of guys popped up and turned into way better players than they thought they were going to. Naz Reid's had a lot to do with it too, and you're going to in all likely lose him unless you can promise him, hey, we're getting rid of Cat, and then we can pay him. But there's going to be $100 million out there for him from some team, and he's probably going to take it. And then you're stuck with Cat at 230. And what's the market on Cat at 230?
That's the question.
We talked about that the other week. I think maybe the Brooklyn Nets, but anybody who thinks they're going to get any kind of a package approaching the Rudy Gobert package for Cat is crazy.
Yes.
I think the frustration that everybody in Minnesota sees over him not playing is not frustration around the rest of the league. It's skepticism about him. And I don't think there's going to be much of a market for him at all. I think you're stuck with him for next year.
Yeah. And that's, again, then what? But, for now, they've won 3 in a row. It feels like Gobert's got some more energy to him than he's had in a while.
He's trying. He's trying, that's for sure.
And they've got this kind of tighter 9-man rotation now. It's kind of, you're starting to see this. They're not messing around with playing time anymore. You gotta, if you're not doing a specific thing, Finchie's not playing you. So, and there's been no Austin Rivers. There's been none of these other guys. Noel's been hurt for a little while here, so that maybe decreases on some of that volatility of the second unit. But yeah, they're like they got the Kings again. They got the Kings. I can't remember who their next game is. Maybe I'm making that up.
The schedule is tough. The schedule is tough the rest of the year, but it's been tough now. But the Kings are. One thing about the Kings, the game will be in the 130s.
Oh, yeah, they score, man. They score.
Score basket. They do score the basketball, as we say in modern basketball. So,
unlike the Wild, Patrick, who were winning every game. They don't need anything. They need half a goal every game. That's all they need. Half a goal.
They need Kaprizov to score 2, and everybody else just not stay out of the way. And actually, the other night though, they got 2 without him getting either of them. Right? Didn't they? To win.
They got 3. They got 3 the other night against the Flames. Yeah,
they got 3, and none of them were his. But the Flames, good team. They just go up there. They're at the end of the little road trip, and they're. Nine in a row where I think they've only lost 1, right? And that was
they're getting a point in all these games. Yeah, at least 1 in all these games. And
2. But they could finish first in the Western Conference.
Yeah,
nobody's running away. I think the most points anybody has is 82, and they got 78 or something like that. They're very near the top in their division, and they're only 4 or 5 points out of first place for the whole Western Conference, and they never lose. And it doesn't make any. Now the Flowers actually played some good games.
Yes,
Gusty throws up a shutout. This guy should be contemplated as the team number 2 MVP. Gustafson.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Because they just took him because they were sick of Talbot, and Talbot goes away and gets hurt for a month, right? And they bring this guy in, and he was terrible last year, and he's been great.
He's been great, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is, and boy, they went out and loaded up on the Swedes.
Yes, they did.
Trading deadline, what they added for it took me back to I actually said this on Twitter. I brought back when I was sitting next to Al Morganti, the great Al Morganti from Philadelphia. At the Calgary Saddle Dome in 1988 Olympics, and Russia was just skating through these Swedes as they dodged contact. The Swedes had the bad reputation.
Right.
They weren't physical. And Morganti turns to me and says, "You know what's wrong with this Swedish team? They have too many Swedes." And I've always remembered that as maybe my favorite quote. And in a press box, well, we don't have that opinion of the Swedish
not
player.
Anymore, no.
Not enough. But when they first came up, it was like, it was
a finesse game. A finesse game.
Oh, finesse game. They wouldn't hit anybody. And they had like Ulf Samuelson and a couple of guys. They had a couple of thugs, but the rest of them were just soft and didn't want to hit anybody. That was the old NFL when you could besmirch a man's courage and guts, and if you didn't want to fight, you couldn't play. And
right.
Blah blah. Yeah, we used to rip Bobby Smith because he wouldn't fight. And then the one time he tried it, he almost, and he got. But that was the old NHL. But they got 4 Swedes, right? So
yeah, well,
one of them was hurt, but somehow they managed to make a bunch of trades with no money, which is
they had short-term money, so they had like money for this year on the cap. They had like the equivalent of like prorated like $10 million in cap space for the rest of this season. But what they didn't want is anybody who's on the books next year and beyond, because that's when it gets hurt. But Guerin made like 7 trades, if I'm counting it right, because he got himself in the.
He helped out on some deals, and he got some draft choices.
And they traded Greenway. Right? They got Greenway out of here for a 2nd and a 5th, which was amazing to me.
It's funny how we waited for him, and he was okay for a while, but he's too dang slow to play in modern.
2 goals the whole year. 2 goals the whole year.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
I think that that was a good. I heard some people say they sold him cheap. I think they got rid of him because he can't play.
A 2nd and a 5th seems pretty good to me for Jordan Greenway. I don't know. That's just me.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's something though. He does not. Guerin does not concede that they can't win. Man, he goes out and gets them everything. And I don't know if Nyquist is hurt, but the other 3 guys. We've had Marcus Johansson before and brought him back again.
Right.
And, he get right away. Did he get a goal or was in?
He had an assist the other night.
Mm-hmm.
The defense they got was a +3 a game, and a 3-0 win being a +3 is a pretty good stat line for a defenseman.
And boy, every time they come home on a weekend at this time of year, 19,000 there. Yep. People love those afternoon games on Sundays late in the season. So once the NFL stops playing, there's they just keep coming in from Woodbury to watch that team. It's incredible.
Patrick, last thing, is Adam Thielen going to be here next year?
Not unless he's willing to take about 1/3 of what he's making, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't think he will be. I think it's time to. I mean, he didn't. He's not your second best receiver anymore, is he? So it was a good, amazing run for a Mankato State fella, but I don't think so. I don't. He'll be here unless it's, when do we find out? When do they have to make these moves?
It's within about a week. They've got to get under the cap by the start of the league year, which I think is like the 13th, 15th, something like that. So they got to get, and he's got I think I read in Andrew's story today or yesterday, he's got a hard deadline of the 17th of March because that's when his salary becomes guaranteed for next year, and it's like an $11 million base salary.
That isn't happening. That isn't happening.
No, it's either going to be, it's got to be either a trade, a release, or a restructure.
Why don't they just let him go? Let him go someplace else and maybe get revitalized a little bit. So, I don't think there's much to accomplish. He's not a specialist. He's a guy who's got to be on the field, right?
Yes.
He's make those catches. He's not like, okay, now we get him in there and he's a burner. He can run by somebody.
Right.
We can do things with him. He's got to go in and make his 8 catches for 82 yards and 1 touchdown. Right.
Right. Yeah.
That's the guy he is, and he was, and he doesn't have that role with him anymore. So I think they'll just let him go. Don't you?
I do. I mean, it wouldn't be terribly popular with the segment of the fan base, but yeah, he still had 70 catches last year, but I think he's talking about wanting a bigger role than the one that he probably needs at this stage of his career.
Yes, and here's the other thing: the fan base, they don't care.
Yeah, but at the end
of the day, they don't care because you saps are going to go right back there, no matter who they have playing.
That's true.
You're all going to be there. You're going to be doing your idiotic pregame stuff, 65,000 of you standing up and going skull, paying $14 for your beers, spending an hour trying to go to the restroom in that lousy, overbuilt monolith of a stadium. It's not in your TV ratings. There's still going to be 60% of the audience. They don't have to give one damn what the fans think, because you're going to crawl on your belly through the muck to be there and spend all your hard-earned money, and then get renewed in the next year's draft to think that they've solved all their problems. So the Viking fan base being unhappy, who cares?
Yeah,
you're still going to give them all your money and all your attention.
Yes. Well, on that note, I love
Am I wrong?
Am
I wrong?
You are not wrong, and I love your tagline. That's a good NFL tagline because that's basically the NFL in a nutshell, not just the Vikings. But let's finish there. We got plenty to talk about next week, I'm sure. We'll see how these Wolves do. We'll see how these Wild do. We'll see what happens with, see if we hear from Lindsay Whalen at some point this week and everything else. Patrick, great stuff as always. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you.